Hello and welcome to the Cinementalist podcast for Cinementalist.com. My name's Andy. Sitting next to me is our bearded dragon mascot Floki, and sitting opposite me is Liam. How are you, my friend?
Bum sex.
Bum sex? That's a hell of a way to kick off a podcast.
Well, I always just say I'm fine or some iteration thereof, so I just thought I'd,
It's the way the audience can tell this is a different episode they're listening to. Because I swear I do that intro now. It's I can recite it in my sleep backwards, back to front.
Just like from now on, it's just something like that. Just any stream of consciousness, bum sex, recycling bin, vertebra. Just blurt out shit that means nothing.
It's interesting you put those three things together. I'm sure a psychologist will be able to tell us what that means about your inner psyche.
I don't think they want to go probing. No, I'm sound, mate. I'm sound.
Although, speaking of being able to do that intro backwards and forwards, in my sleep and all that, if you go back to it, I think you'll notice that for a brief second, my brain forgot what the name of the podcast was. And we've only done 180 episodes of it so far between the free and the premium.
Oh, man. Is that burnout or is that burnout?
Yeah. Well, I am getting to the stage now where you can legitimately call me a somewhat old hippie. So it's only going to get worse.
Enjoy.
It's quite amazing that I'm able to function at all at this point. But yes, welcome to the Cinementalist podcast. As usual, we're going to talk about films and TV and stuff, all your media-related shite. We kicked off the podcast with butt sex.
Bum sex.
Bum sex, rather. Yes, sorry, did I Americanize it?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. But yes, let's do the usual intro, which is going into a bit of news, shall we?
Anything exciting this week?
Yeah, I think I've got some stuff you might be interested in. First things first, article from Variety.com. Christopher Nolan talking to several studios about World War II film about J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Okay.
Christopher Nolan has had discussions with several major studios about his next film revolving around J. Robert Oppenheimer and his involvement developing the atom bomb during World War II. While Nolan's last few films were all at Warner Brothers, the director was not pleased when Warner Media made the decision to put its entire 2021 slate on HBO Max. Nolan's most recent film, Tenet, was not part of that move. It received an exclusive theatrical run. His new film will be a return to the history of the Second World War after Dunkirk, but set in America this time. Tenet was released in theatre, Tenet. We covered a lot of Tenet. You liked Tenet. The rest of the internet didn't like Tenet, but you liked Tenet, and I thought it was quite good as well. But anyway, yes, essentially, this is all this article has to say is that Christopher Nolan is talking about doing a film about J. Robert Oppenheimer, and there's a potential cast in Cillian Murphy as well.
Well, as Oppenheimer?
Well, no one's confirmed it. He's believed to be attached to the project. No one's saying what character he's attached as. It would be really weird if he wasn't. If you look at photos of Oppenheimer, Cillian Murphy's actually a fairly good match.
What was his quote?
I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
Yeah, because it's quoted from the Bhagavad Gita, isn't it?
Yeah. He got really into Hindu spiritualism, essentially, and went on to create two of the most destructive devices the world has ever seen. But he's a really interesting character, actually. I know a fair bit about Oppenheimer, and he was a real eccentric, and he was essentially put in charge of running the Los Alamos laboratory, where the Manhattan Project was brought to its final conclusion, the actual building of the bombs. And one of the amazing things about him was that he was unbelievably intelligent, but he was picked to sort of oversee the whole facility and the whole building of the bombs because he was good at every single aspect of it. He literally, a lot of his peers said that he should have got several Nobel Prizes, except he'd never stick on one subject long enough. He'd bounce from subject to subject to subject to subject. And so he oversaw the creation of the most destructive weapons ever used on this planet. But as far as he was concerned, he was very, very liberal. The American government had him tracked constantly while he was working at Los Alamos because he kept meeting up with left-wing communist organizations. And so there's this real weird dichotomy in that he was sort of fell down the physics rabbit hole with creating the bombs. But ultimately, he was a bit of a pacifist, and creating what he created, I don't think, it was almost like the morality of what he was doing didn't really occur to him. It was more about the science of making it work.
Well, I've seen the clip of him saying, I'm become death, and you can tell that you're looking at, just something of a shattered man.
Yeah, absolutely.
He just looks deeply psychically wounded by what he's done, really, even if he doesn't explicitly state it.
Yeah, there's that wonderful footage of him talking about the scientists the moment the Trinity test explosion first went off, the first time they realized they got it right. And it is something like some people cried, some people laughed, but all of us had this pervasive feeling that we'd sort of crossed the Rubicon, that we'd we were all so caught up in the making of the doing of the making of the thing that suddenly realizing the repercussions. Although he did say in later interviews that he wished that it had been used on Nazi Germany instead to end the war sooner. He said that was one of his regrets, is that if we were going to create a device that destructive, using it to bring down the most tyrannical empire the world has ever seen would have been a better usage for it than essentially shutting down Japan's side of the war. But yeah, interesting stuff. I'd love to see that movie. I'd love to see it in Chris Nolan's hands. Strikes me as something he'd be very good at.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to be looking up more on that. And I also, I'm a Murphy fan as well.
Yeah,
so
great.
His attachment is definitely intrigued me. So yeah, eyes peeled for that one.
Yeah, and of course there's the big debate about the head of Netflix's programming has been saying for a long time that he's desperate to get Nolan on board. Yeah. And I imagine he'll be badgering him quite strongly about, look, if you're going to do it, why not do it for Netflix?
Well, I mentioned it. Do you know what? Earlier this morning, I watched, never seen it before, I stuck on Red Lights, Cillian Murphy, Sigourney Weaver, Robert De Niro.
Oh, right. I never watched that.
Oh, it's a load of shit.
Is it really?
Absolute pile of fun.
Well, with that cast list?
Starts off really solidly and kind of like ambles along at an intriguing enough pace. Oh, God, the payoff was fucking doggerel. It was, really big letdown. Anyway, but yeah, that's...
Well, it's useful advice for the audience right from the off,
it's just a shame because you got three great people in there. But Anyway.
Bit of Chris Pratt news. Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson reunite for upcoming action comedy. Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson are reunited for a new movie. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the Tomorrow War co-stars are teaming up on a new action comedy called Standard Asset. The upcoming flick is being produced by Jurassic World Dominion star Chris, and the script is penned by the 37-year-old comedian and Jen D'Angelo, who also worked on the 2021 military sci-fi action film with the pair. Details surrounding the plot are being kept a secret for the time being. The only reason I really brought this article up is I am sick and tired of Chris Pratt. I really am. Chris Pratt has become a sort of totem for mediocre movie for me. I mean, Tomorrow War I thought wasn't mediocre. I thought it was absolute bullshit that actually ended up being really entertaining. But do we think Chris Pratt is going to play a slightly goofy guy who's also got action movie star credentials? I think there'll be a few gags, but then he has to do something really serious and he looks very shocked.
Is the Tomorrow War particularly gag-ridden?
No, but he's definitely playing up some of that goofiness at points. So Chris Pratt, it's not like I have anything against the guy. I don't actively dislike him or anything. I don't think he's got any range whatsoever. He always plays the same character. I mean, he used to just be the goofy guy until he got in shape for Jurassic World. And now he's the goofy action guy instead. So what's it going to be next? The goofy action comedy? I don't know. I'm not sold on the guy. I'm really not. He seems like a nice enough dude. I don't think he's a bad actor. I think he's a middling actor. I think he's a 5 out of 10 actor. But the internet and the rest of the world seems to disagree with me. Everybody loves a bit of Chris Pratt. So there you go.
I don't really care about him, to be honest.
Well, no, I mean, yeah. But he's just, whatever he touches seems to turn to gold. And I don't quite get it. But anyway, yes, you'll be seeing more movies from Chris Pratt soon.
No, I won't.
Well, yeah. Is anybody surprised? No, it'll be me reviewing them. I know that. You'll refuse to watch them, and I don't blame you. So it'll be me going, what am I going to watch this week? That's the big film at the moment. Fine. And I'll do my whole bit about how Chris Pratt's playing the same character. He always.
But you might luck out, and it might coincide with other big films being released, and you go, "Well, that one actually seems a bit more important."
Hopefully, we live in hope. We really live in hope. Another bit of news here. This one's much more interesting. Winona Ryder is to star in the indie movie The Cow. The 49-year-old actress is joining Dermot Mulroney, John Gallagher Jr., Owen Teague, and Brian Chu in the mystery thriller. The movie marks the feature directorial debut for Ellie Horowitz, the co-creator of the Amazon series Homecoming. Ellie has penned the script with Matthew Darby, with production having recently wrapped on the film. It marks the latest collaboration between Boulder Light Pictures and MM2 after they produced the horror film The Vigil and drama Wild Indian together. So yeah, I mean, I brought this up, similar to the whole Chris Pratt thing. As much as I dislike Chris Pratt, I love Winona Ryder.
Oh, she's great.
I think she's having a bit of a reconnaissance at the moment ever since Stranger Things, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Oh, yeah, I like Winona. I've always thought she was good.
I just finished a rewatch of Stranger Things, binge watched through the whole thing, all 3 seasons. And I think I actually liked it more the second time round than I did the first time, and I loved it the first time round. Yeah, she's so good in that show.
Yeah, I like her in The Crucible and Beetlejuice as well. Like, like she's always had a thing about her. There's always been something magnetizing about Winona Ryder. And you say this is it? The Cow.
The Cow,
and it's a mystery thriller.
Apparently so, yeah. There's not a lot revealed about the plot at the moment. I think its main selling point at this point is they don't want to say too much about it. It's an indie movie. You have two production houses coming together, and Winona Ryder is their big hook. But I think she's a hell of a hook to have. And like I said, I think her star is on the rise. It was a weird thing that happened to her, actually, wasn't it? Because she got did she get caught stealing?
Like shoplifting, I think.
Yeah, which is a very, very minor crime. And I remember seeing interviews with her where she was saying like she was having some mental health problems at the time. But it seemed to sort of stop her career stone dead. I mean, she has done work since, but she's never been back in the forefront until Stranger Things. I remember when Stranger Things came out, everybody all of a sudden went, "Oh my God, Winona Ryder's amazing." It's like, yeah, she has been for ages. I mean, she did some shoplifting, man. Like,
well, I mean, I can think, what is, I mean, the immediate British counterpart that springs to mind is, what is it, Anthony Worrell Thompson.
Yeah,
got done for nicking some cheese out of Tesco, and everyone, the UK collectively just turned around and said, like, well, that was a bit silly. Why, you're like a bit of a well-off chef. Why the fuck do you need to steal cheese from Tesco?
Yeah, for those
and then everyone
don't know,
forgot about it.
For our international listeners, he was a TV chef, essentially. Well, he had a lot of restaurants in his own right, but he was a very familiar face on British screens doing cookery programs. And then, yes, he was caught stealing cheese in a supermarket because apparently, not because he, times were hard and his money had run out or anything, but he just liked stealing stuff.
But they didn't call him onto talk shows and, because nobody would give a shit.
No.
It's all like Anthony Worrell Thompson, you're minted and you're stealing wheels of cheese from Tesco. You're a bit of a tit, and then that was that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was all, I'm not saying, shoplifting, just, have at it.
No, not endorsing it, but it's a pretty, especially with,
I think it's a very minor crime. And I don't think it really warrants a severe and seemingly like irrevocable career tanking and going on like fucking stuff like Oprah, etc., etc. It's not really that big of a deal.
If you think about it, though, like the Winona Ryder shoplifting thing and the Anthony Worrell Thompson shoplifting thing, these days, I mean, they were both quite a long time ago now. These days, that would be barely a story, would it? I guess it was sort of shocking at the time because celebrity news was lesser then. And now we know so much more about celebrities because of social media, etc., that we know, there are huge examples everywhere of celebrities' bad behavior that's a hell of a lot worse. But back then, that was a shocking thing, wasn't it? I mean, we're sitting here in little old England. We heard about Winona Ryder nicking a dress or whatever it was. And it's kind of pathetic when you think about it, isn't it?
Well, it's not some horrific incident. It doesn't warrant her being sat down and interviewed about her demons. She half-inched a couple of things. She shouldn't have done it. She paid for her error.
Yeah, she apologised. And all that,
it's just, I mean, oh God, just make a mountain out of a molehill.
Surely, we're all so concerned about mental health and everything these days. Then kleptomaniacs in any form whatsoever, even a small period of kleptomania, should be forgiven by the modern liberal society as a whole.
Well, it's a compulsive behaviour.
Yeah. As you said with Anthony Worrell Thompson, he just liked stealing cheese.
He just likes doing it. Yeah.
It wasn't because he couldn't afford the cheese. He just liked the thrill of stealing the cheese.
Yeah. See, that's the reaction. It's funny. I mean, I'm not saying it's Winona Ryder was obviously unwell. I'm not laughing at that, but it's not this somber, really terrible event.
No,
oh, never mind.
Anyway, yes, I'm looking forward to anything Winona Ryder appears in from this point forward. I'm slightly in love with her, if I'm honest. But
she's great. Yeah, she's cool. Always like Winona.
Last bit of news this week, and this is a big one. Dune has finally premiered in Venice. Denis Villeneuve has urged audiences to watch the movie in theaters, and Timothée Chalamet has already been talking about a sequel. Now, that sort of seems a little odd in that some of the news articles that we've read out on the podcast in the past year have heavily hinted that the Dune film is, in fact, half of the story. So rather than Timothée Chalamet is hoping for a sequel, kind of sounds like Dune needs a sequel in order to finish its plot.
I swear, when I've seen Dune doing a couple of rounds on the Twitterverse and other thing, I've seen people referring to it as Dune Part 1. So, I mean,
it's not being billed that way, but apparently it is half the book. Yeah, the writer came forward, didn't he, and said, I've adapted half the book. And I think he said something as well, like, I'm getting old now, and if they want to adapt the second half, they need to find somebody else. But yes, Denis Villeneuve is desperate for people to go to the cinema. He said, it has been dreamed, designed, shot, thinking IMAX. When you watch this movie on the big screen, it is a physical experience. We tried to design it to be as immersive as possible. In December, Warner Brothers, the studio that is releasing Dune, which Legendary produced and financed, announced that its entire movie slate for 2021 will premiere both in theaters and HBO Max on the same day. However, I think they're going for the big push on this one. And I have to say, we always try and avoid other people's reviews and things before we've got a chance to see it, because you don't want someone else's review to colour your opinions if you try and go in as blind as possible. However, it's been impossible to ignore that although I haven't read any of the reviews so far for it, I have seen the titles of these reviews passing across my newsfeed. And the reception so far seems to be extremely positive.
Yeah.
I've seen, I would say out of the 10 reviews I've seen go past my feed that I haven't looked at directly, I'd say 8 of them say something along the lines of it's staggering, exhilarating, all those kind of, big buzzword, hype words. So we might be in for a treat here.
I hope so, because I have been waiting for a Dune adaptation that is actually good. And I no disrespect to David Lynch, because I am a fan, but the 1984 version is ludicrous. The miniseries is just no. And so I have been anticipating this one with some real fervent hope in my guts.
Well, here you go, actually. Speaking of earlier versions of Dune, Timothée Chalamet stars the sci-fi tentpole as Paul Atreides, the character based on Frank Herbert's 1965 novel. He said that he watched Carl McLaughlin's performance in the 1984 original Dune 2 months before shooting, but tried to make the character his own. I have huge respect for Carl's performance, and I love that version. I was fortunate enough to work on other projects that have prior iterations with great actors in them, but when Denis Villeneuve asks you to do a movie and do his version of the movie, you forget all of that. So that sounds promising as well, doesn't it? Is that? And I love how tactful he's being there as well. I mean, he doesn't actually give away anything that he really thinks about other than he likes the performance. But our version is not going to be that, guys, we promise. Honestly.
Jesus God, I hope not. Just like the lack of absolute cartoonishness would be a saving grace.
Yes, it does seem to be taking itself a lot more seriously, which I think the source material deserves.
Yes, it 100% does.
Really looking forward to it. I think that'll be film of the year, even if it's awful. I mean, one way or the other. I think would you say that's probably the biggest release of the year? I know a lot of people would say Tenet and all of that, but I've got a feeling, feeling this is going to be bigger.
People have been, June has been really building for a couple of years now. It's been like swelling immensely. The anticipation. So, I think everyone's looking forward to some glorious cinematic splurge all over everyone's face.
Lovely.
So,
Well, that's something for the poster for them as well.
What I've got my fingers crossed for. So.
Oh, actually, I missed an article here. This is only going to be very quick. We mentioned it a few weeks ago, but the new Predator movie has wrapped filming and revealed its cast. Cinematographer Jeff Cutter used his Instagram account to announce the new Predator film, apparently titled Skull, has wrapped filming, or is it Skulls now? With so little information about the upcoming movie available, Cutter's announcement might have accidentally revealed a name change for the project. At the same time, it confirms 2 new cast members involved with the production. In his Instagram announcement, Cutter thanks director Dan Trachtenberg for inviting me along on this epic journey and entrusting me to help achieve his vision for his film. Cutter's original message also refers to the film as Skulls, adding an S at the end of the name, announced by producers John Davis and John Fox last July. Finally, Cutter's message thanks the great cast led by Amber Midthunder, Dakota Beavers, and Dane DeLegro. Apparently, DeLegro, I didn't recognize the name at first. I was looking at his credits earlier. There's a fairly safe bet that he's playing the Predator, because he's also played monsters in American Horror Stories and On Sweet Home.
Is he a big lump, is he then?
Yes, yeah. There is. Basically, everyone said, well, we know who he'll be. But as we said when we first started talking about this film, I'm a huge Predator fan. I know you're a big fan of the original film as well. And there have been great injustices made in the Predator's name ever since the original release. Was kind of fond of Predators. I thought that was okay. But yes, this also seems to be going back to potentially prehistoric times.
Yeah, certain Andersons and certain Glovers have done a disservice.
Oh man, the Alien vs. Predator films. We got followed the other day by, because I mentioned on Twitter that I was a big fan of Aliens, and we got followed the other day by the Alien vs. Predator fan club thing.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool and all that, but all I can imagine is them having meetings where they go, why hasn't there been a good Alien versus Predator film? Why have all the modern Alien releases just been, not up to much?
Well, hopefully they kickstart a good one.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Predator, the first Alien, and Aliens are three of the greatest sci-fi horror movies ever made, and three of my favorite movies ever made as well.
Yeah.
So whenever you get one of these announcements, rather, a little bit of my heart jumps, But I'm seeing what we've seen. Yeah, everything's being kept to the wraps at the moment, but seeing what we've seen leak so far about this, it does at least seem to be doing something interesting with the source material. So I'm starting to get a little bit hyped, But hey.
Yeah, as you said, the great bulk of it has been shitty.
Yes,
but
that is the word.
As you said, the 2010 Predators wasn't actually a terrible film.
Love Lawrence Fishburne in it.
Yeah,
Great
yeah, Lawrence Fishburne, Adrian Brody as well. He was in it.
It didn't really fuck with the mythos.
That was just one big love letter to the very first one.
Yeah,
and you could tell
I was fine with that.
You could tell everyone behind it just loved the shit out of the 1987 film, and that made me very warm.
Yeah,
that made me feel very warm.
It makes a 6 out of 10 film more like a 7 or an 8, doesn't it? Because you can feel the love for the source material coming.
Absolutely. Whereas all of the other entries have been nah.
Anyways, yes, that is the actual end of the news this week. We need to get on with the rest of the show. And as usual, we kick off with Liam delivering 2 film reviews. What do you have for us?
Okay, so first up, this one has been getting a lot of internet traction. And when I first saw the trailer about a month or two ago, it pricked up my ears a little bit. This is Malignant. Latest one by James Wan, who's the founder of the Saw franchise. And obviously now the most recent film that James Wan directed prior to Malignant was obviously Aquaman, which grossed over $1 billion worldwide.
Yeah, huge film. Really stupid film as well, but very fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, you think, okay, well, that's your summary of Aquaman. Well, let me get it into Malignant a little bit for you.
Okay.
So this...
I can see where this is going.
So this stars Annabelle Wallis as Madison Lake. Now, Madison is a woman in her, I think, late 20s. And she is with child, working very long hours. And she's starting to, her pregnancy's obviously making her feel like a lot of discomfort, feeling very under the weather. And she comes home to her husband, Derek, who's quite a bit of an abusive layabout. And he's just like, there's a line early on where she's like, I need to rest. And Derek just looks at her and says, well, no, maybe you need to stop getting pregnant.
Harsh, man.
I thought that's a very strange thing to say, but then
people say we're brutal.
But then the reason for this is because Madison has tried several times in the past to conceive and carry a pregnancy to term, and each time she has miscarried, which makes Derek a special flavour of dickhead.
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah,
he is. He's a deeply unlikable prick.
I thought you were going to say she'd had a lot of kids, so she's had a lot of miscarriages.
No, unfortunately, she's had a lot of miscarriages.
Wow. Okay.
And this ends with Derek slamming her into a wall during an argument and injuring her, and then offering some very half-hearted, insincere apology. So, Derek is an absolute helmet. And late that night, Madison is sleeping in bed. Derek is on the couch, and he is awoken by a noise, and he goes and sniffs around the house. See, the refrigerator door opens by itself, like the TV turns on. He's just like the doors are open. He's like, what the fuck is this? And Derek's sort of snooping around, wondering what the hell is going on, until a very bizarre, shadowy form appears next to him in the darkness and then brutally murders him. And Madison is seeing all of this while she's asleep. She's seeing it play out exactly as it does while slumbering. And she wakes up all of a sudden thinking she's just had this appalling nightmare. She goes downstairs, but no, she finds Derek mangled atrociously on the floor after being mullered by this strange, dark, somewhat staticky form. And then, with a bit, I should also mention that the opening of this film takes place in a psychiatric unit where this team of researchers seem to be conducting some sort of bizarre observation with a patient who is addressed only as Gabriel. And we don't see Gabriel in the opening, but it's made clear that Gabriel is a person who is very, very temperamental and very dangerous as well, extraordinarily dangerous. The opening is spectacularly violent. And Madison continues to bear witness, involuntary witness, to subsequent murders. And the people in question who are being murdered by this dark form are people who are associated with the events of the cold open. Some research unit, they were conducting investigations into something very, very strange nearly 3 decades prior. And the research team and people who are outliers to them in some fashion being hunted down and mercilessly slaughtered by someone or something. And every single time it happens, Maddie actually materializes in her mind's eye in the location and is forced to watch the brutal slaying take place. And with further investigation, it is suggested that the culprit is Gabriel, who happens to be Madison's imaginary friend from her childhood.
Okay.
Yes, and basically, some people think she's crazy, but there are some people who are maybe a bit skeptical of the way that authorities are treating her and receiving her stories. And weirder and weirder events keep happening. And there's a friendly copper in there who starts to err on the side of Maddie's version of things. And everyone just essentially tries to knuckle together and find out just what the fuck is going on in the midst of Madison enduring all of these horrible visions of people being brutally murdered. Yeah, that's about as much as I can go into in terms of exposition. Okay, well, we said that Aquaman grossed $1 billion internationally.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that money has just been turned into, I'm James Wan and I'm now doing whatever the fucking hell I want money. Because Malignant is absolutely batshit bonkers insane. The trailer, I watched the trailer, and the trailer made this film look very much like something in the realm of your Conjurings, the Nuns, like your kind of Insidiouses, your staple sort of 21st century, or specifically late 2010s, 2020s, demonic horrors, where there's a lot of bang jumpy scares and there's some sort of demonic occult reference going on, etc., etc. No. This film is even more fucking crazy. It's crazy as a shit house rat, because the reveal behind everything that's going on is just. I'm trying to speak about it now without laughing, but yeah, Malignant is just absolutely hilarious. And this is something that is sharply divided opinion, universally, it seems, because many critics and many audiences, they seem to be split down the middle in what the fuck to make of this film. I do think that Malignant is one just taking the absolute piss, because a lot of the acting is very B-movie level, and to me that comes across as intentional. A lot of the special effects are right out of an 80s splatterfest. And yeah, as I said, the reveal, the explanation for everything that is going on is absolutely ridiculous. But the way that it is handled, I could not stop laughing until way after the credits were over. I'm not exaggerating there. I mean, it is just so. I mean, you got to give this guy imagination points, because this is when they went forth, when they did the big ha twist, it was like, what the fuck is this? Are you actually serious right now? I thought there was some like red herring double bluffing going on. You're actually going to go down this route of utter absurdity that no one in their right mind could even. All the serious horror hounds have long left the building by the time this reveal comes around. And I do think people seem to be skeptical of it. I think he did all this absolutely 100% on purpose. He took the Aquaman money. And he just goes, fuck it. That really, really, really ridiculous, dumb, stoned fucking idea I had back when I was in college? I'm going to finance that. I'm going to do that. And I don't
That's kind of great, though.
And I don't
love that.
Yeah, and I don't give a shit what people think of it. Is it a good movie? It depends what your definition of good really is.
So are we saying this is a so bad it's good, but like an intentional so bad it's good?
Yes. Yeah. I
cool. I'm kind of down for that.
Yeah. Honestly, because it's annoying that because this hinges on incremental reveals. This just for the just for the experience of people. As always, I don't want to ruin anything for anyone, but no, this is not some sort of uniquely intelligent, grand Dewey Knoll, incredibly, oh wow, like what a groundbreakingly unique direction for horror to go in. No, this is just a groundbreakingly deranged, stupid, as I said, crazy as a shithouse rat direction to take a ostensibly supernatural tale in. But it's funny. There wasn't a moment of boredom in this. I thought that the B-movie acting was absolutely hilarious, and I do think it's intentional. I think that people are giving James Wan too hard of a time on *Malignant*, because I do think that he set out to make a film that was absolutely fucking ludicrous, and I think he succeeded. And I would advise people to go and watch *Malignant*. It is really, really fun, and it's fucking nonsense in the best possible way. Honestly.
I'm definitely going to check this out.
Mate, you have to check it out. It is absurd, and I loved it. Yeah.
Excellent.
And then next up, we've spoken about this a couple of times. I also tuned into Prisoners of the Ghostland.
Speaking of films that are supposed to be batshit insane.
Yeah, the latest Nicolas Cage one from a Japanese director, Sion Sono. So yeah, this stars Nic Cage as Hero. This is what his character is billed as, just Hero. Now, Hero, he in the opening of the film, he is a bank robber, and he and his partner in crime, they rob a bank, and the crime seems to go a little bit awry. And then the next time we see Hero, he is shackled in a little shed somewhere, and it's revealed to be a place called Samurai Town, which is essentially a sort of a small town, sort of neo-Western settlement where everyone essentially dresses in very traditional Japanese, historically traditional Japanese garb, including samurai armor and headwear, and the ladies wear, is it kimonos, with traditional makeup and everything. And they're all just doing that all of the time. And Hero sits with his hands cuffed behind his back with a God, I'm going to sound really culturally ignorant now. What is the name for the undergarments worn by sumo wrestlers?
Oh, I don't know. I know what you mean. They have a specific name. Yeah, I'm not sure.
The white thing that, at least in structure, is somewhat comparable to thongs that ladies wear.
Yes,
because it does disappear in between the cheeks.
It does. Yes,
and he's just wearing one of those. And suddenly he is fetched out from his prison shed thing one day, and he is brought before the governor. Now, the governor is a sort of, I suppose you could say he's a sort of weird gangster / warlord type fella, played by Bill Moseley. Now, I really like Bill Moseley because he was obviously Otis in House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects. Loved him in that. Thought he was really, really great. And he brings something of that kind of latently maniacal and threatening presence, like sort of comically yet still disturbingly threatening presence here. The governor just dressed, he's pure, like absolute, pure clean white suit, white Stetson hat way. This is a guy who pulls up in a limousine and is let out of the limousine by some dude dressed in samurai gear, as you do. And he gets out of the limo, and he has Hero brought before him, and he says, I have an adopted granddaughter named Bernice. Now, Bernice is played by Sophia Boutella. Bernice has gone missing somewhere out there in the vast terrain of the Ghostland. And basically, I want you to go and find her and bring her back. And to ensure your compliance, I'm having you fitted with a suit. And this suit has explosive devices attached to, respectively, your neck, your forearms, and your testicles.
Oh, wow.
Should you attempt to remove the neck brace, it detonates. Should you attempt to manhandle Bernice in any way, put your hands on her in a way to physically harm her in any way, shape or form, then the devices on your arms explode. If you start to feel amorous around her at all, it's bye-bye testicles. Wow. So basically, and I'm also fitting you with a device on your arm that will give you a total of 5 days to bring her back. On the 3rd day, I want to hear her speak her name into this device, and then I'll give you 2 more days to bring her back. If you fail in doing all of that, you go bang. And you don't get a choice, so you better fucking get to it. And so Hero sets off out through the Ghostland to go and find Bernice and bring her back. All the while running into some really, really weird, freaky motherfuckers, a few of whom are supernatural. And yeah, that's the basic setup.
I love it when its plot is just nice and you could write it on the back of a postcard.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing. I love it when a plot is, can be written on the back of a postcard. And, it's a sort of very attractively batshit crazy plot. It's got Nic Cage written all over it, so who better to select for the role than Nic Cage? Oh, God.
No, you're not going to tell me this is bad?
Yeah, I am.
Oh, I was so looking forward to this one.
No, mate, so was I. This film was possibly the biggest letdown of the year. I'm sorry, but it absolutely is. I said,
and you're such a fan of Nic Cage lunacy as well.
I know. This is the thing.
It's even got a quote from him on the poster that says, "The wildest movie I've ever made."
Well, if you're talking wild in terms of complete and utter comprehensive incoherence and bullshit that just happens for absolutely no reason and doesn't add to the plot and or stifles the pacing and slows it down, then yeah, you're talking about wild in terms of disarray, then yeah. This film, I mean, it looks really, really fucking cheap and nasty for a start. I don't have anything against like gonzo filmmaking. I don't have anything inherently against low budget productions at all. But this film just looks tacky. I mean, this was definitely, a shoestring fiasco, it seems. And it's just, there's like absolutely zero character development. Like, you don't really, I know it's supposed to be like a completely barking mad Cage vehicle. You're not necessarily supposed to invest a lot of seriousness into it, but you don't give two shits about any of these people. Something, kind of movies that are comparable. You could select two of Carpenter's finest, Escape from New York and Big Trouble in Little China. At least gave a fuck about the characters and that. I wanted to see how the denouement of the journey. I wanted to see how it all plays out. In this, even Nic Cage as Hero. Yeah, okay, yeah, he's a bank robber, and at one point in time he was captured by the governor, and then he's assigned this mission, and he's a little bit of a wild, crazy, erstwhile criminal, but he's got something of a conscience, as is revealed in flashback scenes and subsequently in the temporary timeline along the road. But this is just the script that Cage is working with. It just doesn't allow us to feel jack shit about his character. It's not that he's like sleepwalking his way through it and phoning it in. He's not, but the character is just really, really ropely written. All the characters are ropely written. There's lots of incidental stuff happening. People just acting really fucking weird, but in a way that is not humorous and doesn't actually really organically feel like it's part of that interior world. I like weird shit. I like weird shit all the time.
You love weird Nic Cage films.
Yeah,
I was fully expecting you to rant and rave about how good this is.
I'm a big, you know me, I'm also a really big fan of David Lynch for a start, and also some of the stuff done by his daughter. I love weird shittery. I love, going like, what the fucking hell did that person do that for? That's really, really eccentric and bizarre, but I feel magnetized to it. There's something in this. It doesn't feel right in this film's DNA. There's something about the way it's shot, just the way that the script perambulates. It's just an absolute hot mess. And I really couldn't wait for it to end. I'm so gutted to have to say that about this, because, yeah, I do love Nic Cage, and I love the setup of this film, but it's fucking boring, man. It's just absolute discombobulated, boring nonsense. And, yeah, are there one or two moments where Cage does make me laugh? Yeah, there are, absolutely. He's, it's not like a 100 out of 100. He literally has not one good bit on screen, one good moment on screen that doesn't elicit some kind of chortle, something like that. It's Nic Cage, and he is doing his best. And yeah, there are a couple of moments of eccentricity in there that were kind of funny, but all in all, no, it doesn't even remotely begin to be anything to make this something worth watching. It was really shit. I'm sorry.
Oh man, I was hoping this would be the year of Cage as well, because you loved Pig so much.
Loved Pig, absolutely. Yeah, Pig was absolutely great.
This had all the B-movie kind
Yeah.
of Cage going mental aesthetic. You know, like Mandy, you know.
Mate,
like,
honestly, Willy's Wonderland is fucking a million times better than this.
oh, wow. And you had some problems with that as well, didn't you?
Oh, but Willy's Wonderland is infinitely better than Prisoners of Ghostland by a country fucking mile. Seriously, this, I really struggled to get through this. It was really lame. It was all over the place. It seemed to just have completely wild, wacky, live-action anime ridiculousness happening purely for the sake of it. It didn't add any gravitas. It didn't make it more atmospherically interesting. It didn't actually make it funnier or anything like that. It's just somebody just like poured loads and loads of money. Just threw loads of money at a load of shit, and just said, "Yeah, let's just like you go over there and act crazy, and we'll just have this crazy thing happening." We're not going to explain why it's happening this way. We're not going to make it feel. We're not just going to make it have a beating pulse. It's just a load of fucking weird shit that characters nobody really gives a toss about. And Nic Cage just seeming to try and have a good time. I mean, I've noticed if he likes the script, then he likes the script. Obviously, that's his prerogative. But this was just, man. Prisoner of the Ghostland is a big fat thumbs down. This was, I did not like this one bit. Sorry.
You know, when you sent me your list across this morning, we always have a discussion, Liam and I, on Thursday mornings before we record about what Liam's going to review this week, what I'm going to review, what we're going to do for the premium. We've normally got an idea beforehand where we sort of tack everything down and put together the podcast over the course of the day. When you said you were reviewing Malignant and Prisoners of the Ghostland, I automatically assumed based on just a feeling I had that you were going to hate Malignant and you were going to love Prisoners of the Ghostland. Completely the other way around.
Completely 180, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, no. Malignant is actually very fun. I mean, it's stupid bullshit, but it's very fun. Whereas, Prisoner of the Ghost, if I had to wrap it up, if I had to summarize it in one word, it would be boring. It was just fucking
worst thing it could possibly be.
The way that everything the way that everything came together, or the lack of that thereof, it was just rubbish. Yeah, so I hate saying that because I love Cage, love Pig, love Mandy, love Wild at Heart. I love Cage and I love the eccentric shit he's involved in. I really do. I am a massive fan of that. This, it doesn't even touch that one iota. And that's gutting. That is gutting. So, oh well.
Okay then. Well, on that note, then I better start some TV of the week.
TV of the week.
And this week, this is a series that has been causing a lot of hype on Netflix. I constantly see it infiltrating the top 10. In fact, I think for the past 2 weeks since it's been out, it's been sort of the third or fourth position in the UK. So a lot of people watching this. And it is called Clickbait.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of this. Adrian Grenier.
Yeah. So, I have been watching it because it's in the top 10. I thought I'd do a review of it, and I shall review it thus.
Wonderful.
This opens with a family party in the US. And at this party is Pia Brewer, played by Zoe Kazan. She's a bit of a sort of punk rock party chick kind of girl. And her brother, Nick Brewer, played by Adrian Grenier, as you said. And it's a party for their mother. And her mother, they're all sitting out in the back garden having a lovely time. Her mother's opening her presents. And she goes to open a present from the family. So Nick's there with his wife and his kids. Pia is there by herself because she's a bit of a lone wolf. And as the mother goes to open the present, she pulls back the wrapping. And as she's about to see what it is, Pia interjects and says, just so you know, we decided as a group to get this present and I wasn't part of the decision-making process, okay? So her mother opens the present and it's a planter for her plants in the garden. And she's overjoyed with it. She goes, oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. And Nick's smiling and his wife's smiling and the kids are all happy that their grandmother, Nick's mother and Pia's mother, is really, really happy with her present. Pia becomes increasingly pissed off because she thought she'd chipped in with the rest of the family to get her mother a bread maker. And as such, she thinks that would be a much better present. And despite the fact that her mother is delighted with her planter, this was a bad idea. She's only being nice. And a big family argument erupts. They start arguing back and forth. Pia starts getting increasingly agitated. Nick loses his temper and kicks Pia out of the party. So we then get a sequence where Pia goes a bit off the rail. She's walking down the street screaming. She's obviously sort of losing her mind a little bit at the dysfunction of her family and the big argument she's just been in. And so as a result, she goes partying. She goes out to a nightclub. She has a lot of drinks. She takes a few pills. And at one point, she goes into the toilets and opens up a dating app. And on the dating app, she matches with a very good-looking guy, Roshan Amiri, who looks like a bit of up her street. So she starts messaging him. And as they're agreeing to meet up, she turns around and accidentally drops her phone in the toilet bowl.
Oh, dear.
Oh, dear, indeed. So she rescues her phone from the toilet bowl, but it is, of course, dead. So she parties her way back home. She takes some more pills. There's a scene where she masturbates in bed, some pornography, which I thought was a little bit unnecessary and gratuitous, but there you go.
Nice.
It's what you do when you get home for a night out, isn't it?
Indeed, yeah.
Yep, she's back at the flat now. She's watching videos on YouTube. She's having a good time. She's about to pass out, and she puts her phone in a tub of rice. You know the old trick when you've got your phone wet, you stick it in a
Does
tub.
that actually work?
Occasionally, yeah. The rice absorbs the moisture.
I've never had to try it.
No, it can, yeah. So it absorbs the moisture out of the phone because the rice inflates with it instead.
Okay.
But anyway, her phone is now defunct and she puts it away. She goes to bed for the evening. We see her get up the next day and she goes to her job, very, very hungover indeed. And she is a nurse in a cancer ward.
Oh, that's good. It's good form.
Yeah.
Really hungover when you're a nurse.
Exactly what you want if you're a chemotherapy patient. Yeah, if you're a nurse to be a party chick who's completely hungover. But anyway, she turns up. She's downing aspirin like they're going out of fashion. She goes to talk to one of her patients, a young guy who's receiving chemotherapy. And as she's trying to get the syringe in his arm, he's distracting her and distracting himself at the same time, really, with his laptop because he's a bit of a geek. And he's showing her funny YouTube videos. And this obviously is like a regular thing they do. Every time he comes in for his treatment, they watch funny YouTube videos together while it's happening.
Epic
sort of
fails and that sort of shit.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. You know, cats playing pianos and dogs falling off bridges and all that kind of, very, very
crap.
Very, very funny shit. Anyway, as they're watching, a notification from a vlogger turns up on screen. Pia isn't really paying attention to it, but this kid is watching it intently. And this vlogger is talking about a new video that is going viral. And Pia looks over at the video, and it is her brother, Nic. And he's set on a black background, and he's looking very beaten up. He's got a cut on his eyebrow, and he's looking very sorry for himself indeed. And he's holding up a sign to the camera. And the sign says, "I abuse women." And he puts the card down and he picks up another card. And the next card says, "At 5 million views, I die." And then the video cuts. Pia, understandably, starts losing her shit. Despite the fact she had this big argument with her brother the night previous, obviously it's still her brother. And he's now been cast across the internet. And as she looks around, she notices people in the cancer ward, everybody's getting this video as a notification. The views, there's a view counter in the top right corner of the screen. The views are going up exponentially. So Pia freaks out. She leaves work and she goes to Nic's work to try and find whether he's come in that morning, whether it's just a prank, a hoax, that kind of thing, whether he's doing it for a bit of a laugh. She turns up at this sports facility where he works and nobody's seen him all day. So he next turns up at Nic's wife's school where she works and pulls her out of her lesson where she's teaching these kids, I believe it's science, pulls her out and says, "Look, you need to see this video. What the hell is going on? Have you spoken to Nic?" And she goes, "No, I haven't spoken to him all day." So they go to the police and they turn up at the police station and they ask to speak to a detective or somebody in charge. And they are introduced to Roshan Amiri, the guy that she was messaging with on the dating app the night previous. He's understandably a bit shocked to see Pia there because he was having a conversation with her. They were about to hook up and then her phone mysteriously went dead. But he keeps it quiet and he keeps on the down low and says, "Okay, tell me your story." And they show him this video and say, "Look, this seems to be real. We haven't seen him all day. We don't know what's going on. As far as we're concerned, he's a really upstanding guy. Of course he wouldn't abuse women. We don't know how he's got himself in this sort of mess. Could you start taking this thing seriously?" So the police department begins to investigate. Pia, meanwhile, goes around asking her mother and anybody else in the town and Nic's kids and everybody else, when was the last time you saw him? Has he got mixed up in any trouble recently? When she's called back into the detective office because another video has been posted. This new video is Nic holding up a sign that says, "I killed a woman." And meanwhile, the views in the top right corner are getting very, very close to the 5 million view mark. So Nic is in a lot of trouble indeed. And it is Pia's job, along with the detectives that she has now befriended, to bring a resolution to this tale and hopefully bring Nick out of harm's way. Okay with the plot setup on that one?
Yeah, sounds pretty straightforward.
Does it sound intriguing?
It does sound kind of interesting.
Well, it's not. Yeah. Where to fucking start with this one? Let's go here, shall we? I am fairly convinced that this show was written by an AI. Because what it has, and bear in mind that the show is entitled Clickbait as well. And for those not in the know, clickbait is a term for an article online where the title is initially very interesting that makes you want to click on it. You click through to it and thereby see a load of adverts and make the site some money. And it actually turns out to be an article about nothing. I mean, that is essentially the definition of clickbait. That is essentially this show. Is that it's got a very interesting premise with the guy that's been kidnapped and holds up the cars and everything. His sister has to track down. Meanwhile, there's this whole thing about the plot expands outwards. The first episode is called The Sister. The second episode is called The Brother. So it's going through all these characters doing everything from their perspective kind of thing. It's got all these interesting things going for it. The dialogue is unbelievably rote. Like I said, I'm convinced actually, at some point in the future, the creators of this show are going to come out and say, haha, fooled you. You see, we wrote a premise and then we gave it to an AI and the AI wrote the script and you didn't notice. Well, tell you what, I fucking did. Because it is just absolutely plastic. The characterization is just paper thin as well. I mean, Pia as a character, and this is no fault of the actress, by the way. I'm not even going at the actress. In fact, there's a fair few decent performances in this. It's just the material they have to work with. The characterization is absolutely paper thin. Pia is one of the most irritating characters I've ever seen in any TV production of anything. You're supposed to kind of like her and get on board with her, despite the fact she's just a really mean, nasty person that spends her entire time going around screaming at people because she doesn't think they're doing enough to look for her brother. And later on, there's more revealed in the plot where she screams for different reasons. But she's essentially just a really, really horrible person you're supposed to root for because her brother's in trouble, which doesn't work in the slightest. There is one shining light in this, actually, and this is Phoenix Wright, who plays Roshan Amiri, the detective in question. His plotline actually isn't that bad, and his characterization and his performance of it is actually fairly good. He might be one to watch out for in the future. But otherwise, everybody is so two-dimensional, it's ridiculous. More than that, the way it's shot is unbelievably boring. Every single camera angle, I mean, you haven't seen this at all. If I gave you a script to an episode and said, where should the camera go for this? You could do it in your sleep backwards whilst masturbating. I mean, it is so conventionally shot that it just bored the hell out of me, with one interesting caveat, which is this show is obviously very reliant on the idea that everything's very internet-based. This is about viral videos and social media apps and all this sort of thing. And it constantly decides, you know when a show does that thing where it pops up a text bubble when someone receives a text on their phone, you actually get a CGI graphic on screen showing it, which I don't normally mind because I kind of get it. Like, how else are you supposed to convey a character reading a message or an email rather than having the screen pop up? I kind of get it, right? It does it constantly, absolutely constantly. I would say 3/4 of the shots of this series feature a text bubble or a computer screen blown up like Minority Report. Or they appear from absolutely nowhere. And these Blade Runner holograms are popping all over the place, which I found unbelievably distracting. And what's worse is the series seems to mistake that for having a visual style about it, rather than doing something interesting with the camera. Or I was watching this just looking for something to grab onto, like, please, just give me something that is not really, really tepid. You know what this show is, actually? I haven't done a food analogy in a while. You know dal, the Indian dish, dal?
Yes.
For those that don't know, it's a lentil soupy curry concoction that you can find in a lot of Indian restaurants. I know we've got a lot of US listeners and Indian food isn't as big out there, but it's quite a soupy concoction. And you know porridge,
yeah,
which Americans would call oatmeal, right? The difference between something like The Innocent, for example, that I reviewed recently, or El Innocente, depending on which version of Netflix you have. The difference between El Innocente and all the Netflix shows like it and Clickbait is like the difference between dal and porridge. If you had no taste buds, they would appear to be almost the same thing. But one is dynamic, delicious, interesting, Moorish, you can't get enough of it. And the other is a bowl of porridge. This show is a bowl of porridge. It has nothing going for it. It is 5 out of 10.
Is this like
it is bland. It is wallpaper paste.
Is it a limited series?
I really hope there isn't a fucking another one. And there is a big twist at the end.
So which is
so ridiculous, by the way, that I couldn't even find it laughable. It was so stretching at that point. I'm like, you guys didn't write this from the beginning, did you?
Obviously, like, with nothing given it, is the resolution to what's happening to her brother, is it absolute bullshit?
Yeah, kind of. It's not that it doesn't make sense. It does make sense. It's just it's stretching so far at that point. So it's one of those endings where you get the sense that they actually didn't know where the ending was until 3/4 of the way through, and go, oh, how many episodes do you think we can get out of this? Or rather, in this case, the AI has churned out 24 episodes. Well, we need to cut it down to 8. So I guess we'll stick an ending here, shall we? But I mean, at the very least, that would make it so bad it was interesting. This is just so bland. It is tepid. It is lukewarm. It is a wet fart of a show. Comparing this to something like The Innocent is just, and I keep going back to it because that's a show about someone that's had a missing person in their life and they have to track that missing person down and find out the backstory, and there's actually a mysterious, shadowy past going on underneath. That's why I keep wanting to reference it. The differences between the two are just night and day. There are so many Netflix productions like this that picking Clickbait out of all the good ones would just be, I hope you did it by throwing a dart at a dartboard, because if you picked it deliberately, having seen all those others, boy, are you in for a bad time. It just pales in comparison to all that other work. And the worst part about it as well, which I haven't even got to yet, but the absolute worst part is that the obvious theme that they're going for in this is that the internet can be a bad thing, and that social media is creating people that are essentially callous and inhuman in their attitude towards other human beings. And isn't that a bad thing? Maybe we should step back from the internet, because the internet can be a dark, dangerous, nefarious, and bad place. It's like, yeah, and so that theme has been done by just about every other modern Netflix series, or at least a good 3/4 of them, for the past 10 years. So if you're going to do that, at least do something interesting. At least do something dynamic. At least do something with a bit of a, it's got twists, but it's like even the twists aren't exciting. It is pap. It's not even so bad it's good. It's not even one of those ones where it's like, man, you need to check this out because it's awful and you'll have a great time having a laugh at it. I just watched it I very nearly fell asleep at a few points. And there was a point where I did start to doze off. And I went, oh shit. And I paused it and I went back to the point where I started to doze off. And I started watching from there. No, I could have gone to sleep for the rest of the episode, to be quite honest. And there was a twist in it, but it doesn't really change much anyway. So, I mean, what I essentially want to say about this show is fuck it, essentially. Don't waste your time. Watch The Innocent instead. Or, I don't know, stare out the window. You'll have a better time.
Damn, that is one to avoid.
Yeah. I what annoys me more than anything else is mediocrity. And it is just nothing but mediocrity, with the exception of Phoenix Wright's performance. I think he's actually might have something.
Phoenix Wright.
I believe it's right. RAEI. But yes, he's rather good in it. But that's the only thing to cling on to. And to be honest, he's not in it enough. But there you go. Yeah, avoid.
Avoid.
Anyway, after that rant, I feel better. I figured, well, we've done this trivia actually on the premium podcast, but I found different trivia for people that listen to the free and the premium. And we've never done this subject on the free. So it's Nic Cage trivia.
Nic Cage trivia?
Nic Cage trivia.
Oh, well, I'm always up for Nic Cage trivia.
One of the nice things about Nic Cage in terms of what we do is that he's such an interesting person. There is never-ending trivia about Nic Cage. So I'm fairly certain. I think the first one we've definitely done before, but each time I find something about it, it becomes more interesting. So I've got a little bit of that. Otherwise, I don't think I've repeated myself. I think this is new Nic Cage trivia, at least in terms of what we've read out on the podcast.
Well, hopefully it's just very, very fucking out there, because you wouldn't expect anything less.
Oh, yeah. Let me kick off with this one. It's hard to blow through $150 million, but not if you have the skill of Nicolas Cage. Between 1996 and 2011, Cage made over $150 million. Then subsequently spent it all and more, leaving himself in dire financial straits. How do you spend that money, you might ask? By purchasing a $300,000 dinosaur skull, rare albino king cobras, an octopus, multiple castles, and 2 entire islands. Every time we do that bit, I think that might be the third time we've done that bit of trivia. Every time I read it, like the new version gets worse. What do you mean 2 islands? Even Johnny Depp only had fucking 1.
Jesus Christ, man. Oh, man. You know, like I've said it before about like how he took his manager to court.
Yeah.
Leading him down the road to financial ruin, even though his manager said, like, no, I advise him against all of this.
Yeah. Some people stick to a vegetarian diet for moral reasons. Others go vegan. Many people eat meat, but are strict about what kinds of meat they consume, whether it's due to a desire to keep kosher, a preference for grass-fed organic beef, or what have you. Nicolas Cage also practices a rather specific sort of carnivorous diet, as described by The Telegraph. In an interview, Cage explains he chose the animals he eats based on how dignified their mating rituals are. For example, he's comfortable if you put birds or fish on his dinner table, but pigs, not so much.
What?
Yeah, apparently Nic Cage thinks about how the animal looks when it fucks and then decides whether he's going to eat it or not. He must be kidding. That must be trolling the interviewer, surely.
Yeah, I think just with anyone else, it would.
Does any animal look good when it? Does any body look good when they fuck?
Any body?
Yeah, I mean,
there is a certain thing that has been a big market for many, many years now. So a lot of people seem to think so.
Well, yeah, I guess. But, wow. Everyone deserves the right to make their own decisions about how their remains are handled after their death. But Nicolas Cage isn't interested in having his ashes scattered anywhere. According to Atlas Obscura, Cage plans to follow the lead of those ancient Egyptian pharaohs and have his remains forever housed in a pyramid. Yes, a pyramid on American soil. Before you go thinking this is just a silly joke he made, you should know the pyramid has already been built. Cage's rather unusual tomb now stands in a New Orleans graveyard that also contains the tomb of Marie Laveau. Cage's pyramid is 9 feet tall, carved out of solid stone, and has the Latin phrase omnia ab uno, everything from one, scrawled on the front. Obviously, Cage isn't occupying the tomb yet, but its unusual shape has already made it a tourist attraction. Some have theorized Cage's pyramid obsession is a sign of him belonging to the Illuminati, but he probably just likes Egyptian architecture. I mean, if you can afford it, why not have a pyramid, right? I mean, it's only 9 feet tall. I mean, it's not like he's building the Great Pyramid. I think that's kind of cool.
If there is an Illuminati, like what would Nic Cage's utility be for them?
Yeah, no.
I mean, okay, I can understand sort of, world leaders and banking magnates and, people in, very high in echelons of, bodies of authority. Yeah, but Nic Cage?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Surely they would have bailed him out by now, seeing he's fucking broke. But
our interests are served by this fucking crazy man going out there and making all these batshit insane films. Like, no, it doesn't jive, man. It doesn't make any sense. But it would be hilarious anyway.
It would, yes. And I'm going to do one more here. I was going to do two, but actually the other one isn't nearly as interesting as this one. So let's finish out with this, okay? I'm just going to start off with the article's title. Nic Cage has done drugs with his cat. From cobras to cats, Nicolas Cage finds inspiration in animals. Allegedly, it was a feline friend who helped him get high on one occasion. Cage explained that when a friend gave him a bag of mushrooms, his cat would go in my refrigerator and grab it, almost like he knew what it was. He loved it. Cage thought his cat might be onto something and did the mushrooms himself, which brought on a peaceful and beautiful experience. And then he got rid of the psychedelics. His cobras, on the other hand, were rehomed to a zoo. They, according to Cage, tried to hypnotize me by showing me their backs and they'd lunge at me. His neighbors, also unhappy, were part of the impetus to find a new home for the snakes.
Fuck. See, everything you say like this about Cage, if it were anyone else...
You wouldn't believe it, would you? No.
Well, or I'd probably spend a significantly longer amount of time sitting here going, like, what? But because it's Nic Cage, it's just laughter and, well,
He just instantly goes in, doesn't he?
Yeah, he would, wouldn't he? He just would.
That sounds like exactly the sort. If you went round to Nic Cage's house and he was on mushrooms with his cat, you wouldn't blink an eye, would you?
Nah.
And you might if it was, I don't know, Martin Sheen or something. But Nic Cage, yeah.
So it's just Nicholas.
It's another Tuesday for good old Nick.
Oh, man, because I know I was so disappointed by Prisoners of the Ghostland, but I'm really, really, really hoping the unbearable weight of massive talent isn't going to be a waste of time, because that has just got epic written all over it, synopsis-wise.
Because I presume it's because of his financial situation, but Nic Cage does have a habit of just picking up any script that's given to him. So you're always going to get some up and down stuff. And he's already had something good this year with Pig. So,
yeah, extremely good.
Yeah, we might have had the peak Nic Cage this year, but hopefully not, because, yeah, we've said it before on premium podcasts and things. We did a Nic Cage special not too long ago, but he's just one of our favorite actors because he's so dynamic. Like, you never know what's going to come next with Nic Cage. You never know what he's going to do next. You can't keep your eyes off him in the frame because he's always going to do something interesting.
Pig was incredible. Mandy was incredible. He hits these filmography milestones where he comes out with something amazing. And I don't like to use that word lightly, but I do think that those two films especially, and others, amazing. And I wasn't expecting Prisoners necessarily to be amazing, but I was hoping it would be better than fucking Willy's Wonderland, like a cut above at least. But
I can't win them all.
There you go. Maybe sometimes just expect too much.
Okay, then. Well, that brings us to the end of our free podcast this week. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to go and record the premium episode now. Are you kicking off with some extra takes first?
I thought we were just going to go right into our...
Oh, we could do that.
Yeah, it's that guy, those dudes, this man.
Yeah, as we promised last week, this is something we concocted while we were on air, actually. We suddenly realized it'd be a great idea to do a podcast about that guy when you're watching a film or a TV piece and it's that guy that's been in the other stuff. What's his name? And it never goes in. I mean, the traditional name for them is character actors, I suppose.
Yeah.
But essentially people who you're never quite sure who they are. They're not big on like Hollywood red carpets or anything like that. They keep cropping up and stuff and you go, oh, it's that dude. I really like that dude. And then you never remember who they are. We're going to discuss our favorite ones of those.
We're here to help you locate some and then remember them.
Yes.
Because these are dudes that are worth, their names being known and their stuff being watched.
Absolutely, yes. We're going to pick out a few of our favorites. Okie dokie then. Right, well, hope to see you on the premium podcast. Please do check out cinementalist.com for a link to our Patreon page. We can find all our premium content. Follow us on Twitter at CinementalCast, so you can follow Liam at...
I'm Liam at the movies and I'm at Wacko Jacko's Flicks.
And anything to add, mate?
Thank you very much for listening. And just obviously... check out the shit we recommend, and then the other stuff, just fucking bin it. But, obviously it's your prerogative to do whatever you like. And,
know what? Watch Clickbait and come back to me and tell me what a bad idea it was. I'll be waiting.
Yeah, all that. Time is precious, though, isn't it? It's only finite.
What are you doing listening to us?
Now, take it easy, people, and see you soon.
Yeah, see you on the premium or see you next week, guys.